Hey everybody, thanks for watching. And just a quick reminder that Zodiac Body Volume 2 is now available, as well as Debating the Bible. There's also a new video on Merkabah Academy. As I said, I'll be putting videos on there that I cannot put on YouTube. So for Never Pay Again members and people who have pro access, it's a new video on Merkabah Academy, just getting into some more information pertaining to what's happening today and what's been happening last few days. You'll see what I'm talking about. But new video on there. Go check it out after this video. But I always try to put a video out on the 4th of July. I know it's a lot of people who do not celebrate. So also, we're having a giveaway. So we need to get at least 500 people to become Merkabah Academy Pro members and subscribe for the $7.99 a month. And we will give away all you see here to 2 people. So that's the new PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, the Xbox Series X, the new Nintendo Switch, the old Nintendo Switch, also a iPad Pro with a keyboard that comes with it, and a case for the Switch. And there's no game is going to come with it. It's going to be for 2 people. All you have to do is when you subscribe, make sure you go in the comment section and put your username for Merkabah Academy in the comment section. We're going to pick 2 people on the 6th to win this. But we need to get at least 500 people. That's 5 days. We need to get at least 500 people to sign up and subscribe and become a Merkabah Academy Pro member. And we're going to have this giveaway, which I will announce in the video on the 6th. Also, those of you who have already bought the Merkabah Academy Pro Access, make sure you guys go ahead in the comment section and comment your username and subscribed. Those of you who know me know I'm a gamer. I've been selling video games for years, and I'll eventually get into some esoteric games because there's a lot of games out there that you can do long videos on and have a lot of information, a lot of hidden stuff in a lot of these video games. So I'll get into a lot of game titles eventually for people to understand what these games are about. But yeah, make sure you guys subscribe first, and then make sure you go ahead and purchase the Merkabah Academy Pro membership, $7.99 a month. And all you got to do, as I said, just comment your username and subscribe. Also, books talked about in the last video, they're going out. All books are available, but make sure you get it as soon as possible because they will sell out. Also, Merkabah Academy Pro Access, $7.99 a month is still available. If you don't want that, as I said, you can get Never Pay Again membership for $2.99. That will go away on Tuesday, tomorrow. So take advantage now. And I appreciate everybody who's been supporting. I know a lot of people, I hate having to get into this information in the beginning of every video. But as I said, I'm blacklisted, you might as well say. Not everybody is seeing the videos. A lot of people sending emails about stuff I talked about in the last video. So I try to put the information out so you guys who may have missed the last video can know what's going on and what's new. So getting to the video, as we talked about the previous video about religion and what's happening with a lot of people coming out, and it's mostly the Christian apologetics. And the Christian apologetics, which if you go and look it up here, it says Christian apologetics is the study and research of historical, evidential, and reasonable facts to defend Christian theology. In studying Christian apologetics, you will not only look to the Bible, but also strive to find outside sources that reinforce the authenticity of the teachings found in the biblical text. Now let's look at this word authenticity. And it's, refers to the proven fact that something is legitimate or real. Leave it right there. Now I'm seeing a lot of you guys send me links to Christian apologetics videos. There's a lot of guys out there who have entire, auditoriums and churches filled with just going into information. And it's almost like it's idiotic because it's one of the things where they're taking the information, because you have to think about this. You have to think about what is put out there for the people to use and accept as facts or evidence towards the validity of the Bible. So if you was to go on a quest for this, you run into a bunch of information, and a lot of that information is all going to depend on how you accept it. And that's the thing. See, we take typical research as it pertains to anything else, and we put it to the Bible. And it's like trying to prove a fairy tale. Now, with typical research, if we're trying to research like, a lost ship that was, shipwreck that was found with gold, how will we trace this back to the people? Now, when we find this actual shipwreck that will have gold, we're not going to find a certificate of manifest, but we're going to find stuff on the ship pertaining to where that ship originated from. It's going to be markings. The gold's going to have markings. There's going to be stuff we're going to see, identifying marks that we're going to find that we could trace back to a city or a village or a town. And then we can go and look back and, track all of this information that's going to be compiled to tell us who built the ship and why it was commissioned and so on and so forth. It's research to be done that goes back to stuff that you're actually going to find that's true. Now, pertaining to the Bible, it's like, one, we can't find the ship. We can't find what you're talking about. We can't find that one. We can't find the person who told us that it exists. We can't find the person who mentioned or wrote about what supposedly had happened with Jesus. We can't find these people. So what evidence do you have? What are you talking about? What's the evidence? The evidence for them is what people said. And what did these people say? We can't prove that these people actually existed. So what we have is writings, right? And then we don't even have the original writing. So this is basically it. Forget everything else. So Jesus being mentioned outside the Bible, and it's one of the things that these apologetics go into. Well, he was mentioned by Roman sources, Jewish sources outside of the Bible, but decades after his death. So obviously, the person, they say around 4 BC, Jesus is supposed to have possibly been born. And you have this life that he lived. And then you have these people who supposedly, decades after he died, are writing about the prophets who supposed to have witnessed what happened to Jesus. We don't have a firsthand account from Jesus himself. And then you also have to think about, again, this is one of those things where they're not going into common sense. You have to think about if there was a prophet back then or somebody who wrote about what was taking place with Jesus back then. What about the people whose lives he directly affected? What about, Lazarus? What about, the blind kid who he healed, the sick person he healed, the people who he fed, the person he saved from the water, the people who witnessed him perform these miracles? Where are the writings? So you would think the lineage of Lazarus, the lineage of the people who he raised from the dead would keep some type of record and would have written about Jesus and what he did. The people who was around him, there should have been more writings about him close to the time or basically the same year. Now, just put yourself in that position and we can go from carvings we find in caves. Think about that. So we're talking about supposedly thousands of years, tens of thousands of years in some cases before all this Jesus stuff. We had people living in primitive caves, who had the foresight or who had the appreciation or, whatever you want to call it, to carve in cave walls, the horses, the cows, the people. They carved it in caves to basically display and show what they were seeing so long ago before this happened. But the people who, witnessed these miracles did not carve anything. They didn't write anything. If this happened to you within that same year, same day, whatever, if Jesus healed or raised from the dead my dad or uncle or cousin or what have you, people are going to talk about it. It's going to be correspondence about it. There's going to be so much rumors and information going on around it that we're going to have writings that same day, information that same day. But this is not what we find in the case of Jesus. We are supposed to just accept the information that's out there. And again, we go back to these manuscripts, which is all we have, and they don't fit because we don't have originals. And we know there's errors and mistakes because we have copies of copies. So then we also have to think about the unbelievable things that Jesus did that, we have this whole religion because of it. Jesus, miracles and so many miracles and miracle. And that's the main thing people point to. Miracle. And then he died for our sins and everything like that. All this stuff surrounding these things to the point where we have biblical religion. We have a whole religion, Christianity centered around Christ. But we can go back into the Old Testament, and it's people who did amazing things just like Jesus did. We're talking about heal the sick and blind and raise the dead. So when you go back and look, we have to ask ourselves, how come during the Old Testament, Jewish times, that we don't have a doctrine, a book that could have been, instead of us having Christianity based off of Jesus, we should have a whole entire doctrine, just based off of, Abraham, Isaac, Noah, it should have been people that that should have been talking. But if you want to go into something that's more like showing, abilities, supernatural shit, we go look at Elijah. And then after Elijah, even more so, Elisha. The stuff that they was doing was amazing. Miracles. They called them miracles. So what was it? Elijah supposed to have did 8 miracles and Elisha like 16, doubled his miracles. So when you look here, as you can read all these, and it's actually other stuff that they did, the fire raining down from Elisha's side as well, and having the God prove that his God exists. So it's so much stuff that was happening. And when you read all these and look through them, it's like, okay, Elisha raised the dead and healed the blind and the sick and so on, a leper, so on and so forth. And it's like, okay, so there wasn't a religion based off of these guys that could have been based around the stuff that they did. But we don't have no writings. We don't have anything to show that these people actually existed, except for later on. It just so happens when we get to the 3rd century BC or what have you, that we start getting, these writings, and we can't even prove that. We can't even say that this is, actual truth. It's just, at the end of the day, it's writings. So, for the people who did comment on this and send me emails about, that information being, their source or what they go to, because I had a couple Christians email me about, I guess their apologetics, and or what we'll call them apologists, because they want to apologize about the bullshit that exists within the Bible, but they cite these, this information that they use to basically give validity to their beliefs. But this information is not information that we can look to as being concrete, sound information. It is stuff that is just evidence. And I don't even like to consider it evidence, because to me, it's all made up shit and stuff that they're trying to piggyback on to give themselves validity or put themselves in a historical timeline. So even when, people say, oh, Jesus is a historical figure, and historical doesn't mean real. Historical just means something that's old, that's talked about from old times, from ancient times, that we're talking about, that made an impression on people's life or society or what have you. In that context, then yeah, Jesus is a historical figure. But we could say that about Zeus. We could say that about Prometheus. We could say that about a lot of people who had impacts on societies because of, the mythology. So even if we didn't have, because one of the apologetics said that there is basically without the Bible, that is enough information out there that's outside the Bible to prove Jesus' existence, to prove, what happened with Jesus, because so many people wrote about Jesus and talked about Jesus outside of the book. Now, it's a stupid statement, because you don't realize those people who are not Christians who talked about Jesus outside of the Bible only talked about Jesus because of the Bible. So you can't say that if we didn't have the Bible that, we still have this information, because if we didn't have the Bible, then they would have never made up the information. So these are the type of, things that they bring up and they talk about. And apologetics is really, they're smarter than the average Christian, because they know how to take the information and flip it. And, and to me, if you're willing to believe that snakes and donkeys can talk and people got super magical powers, then you'll fall for anything. And a person that's a little bit smarter than you can get you to accept what he's saying if he puts it in the right way. And a lot of these guys who I'm seeing come out and doing these lectures, they're smart. But if you think about, the story of Samson and him having, superhuman strength and everything, and, just the legend around him, where it could be an entire, mythology, a cult. So Samson has this superhuman strength, and he's, so strong. He kills all these Philistines. I mean, it's like so many people supposed to have witnessed this stuff. This dude, so strong, he kills an entire army of Philistine soldiers with a donkey's jawbone, and gets his hair cut, loses his powers, his strength, prays to God to give him his strength back. He gets his strength back just in time to pull these pillars down and kill all the Philistines and kill himself, instead of just asking God to, rain fire on him like he did at, Sodom and Gomorrah. It's crazy. It don't make sense. But you would think it would be a whole, doctrine, a book, a teaching around this guy, but it's not. And a lot of the stories, as I said, this is mythological stuff. It's fairy tale stuff when you just read it. And for a person to be someone who is viewing information, who's supposed to be viewing, whatever facts, which is not really no facts, or let's just say the evidence. You're a person who your whole field is to be looking at something critically to give validity to something else. And it's one of the things that blows my mind about these people. It's like, what could you possibly be looking at critically as it pertains to Jesus and the Bible and coming to a conclusion when there's absolutely nothing? They're literally going off of what these people are saying is true because they said it's true. No facts, nothing to back it up. So it's like, okay, well, scientists said or researchers said, but again, it doesn't matter how many stone tablets or shards of pottery you find with writings on it and names on it that predate any proven biblical text. Nothing is going to ever prove, and nothing ever will prove, that this stuff happened. You can find something that has Jesus' name on it and say it's Jesus' fingerprint or what have you. It's not going to prove this dude walked on water, turned water into wine, raised the dead and healed the sick and all this stuff. It's not going to prove none of that shit.